There's a version of you that shows up at work. There's a version of you that shows up with your family. And there's a version of you that shows up with old friends. And here's the thing most people never stop long enough to ask. Which one of those is actually you? Because the answer, and I want to explore this with you today, the answer is not what most people think. You already know that this is happening. You've noticed that you're a little different at work than you are at home. A little more formal with certain people than others. A little more relaxed with others. More guarded in certain rooms. People write this off as just being adaptable, more social awareness, reading the room. And some of it is, but some of it, and this is the part that's worth examining, some of it is no choice at all. Some of it is completely automatic. It fires before you decide anything. Before you walk in the door, something in you has already started adjusting, already scanning, already figuring out who you need to be in this room. And the question I want to sit with you today is, if this is happening automatically, who is doing it? Here's what I've watched happen in people who do this work. There's a moment. It's different for everyone, but they describe it the same way. They stop trying to figure out which version of themselves is the real one, because they've found something underneath all the versions, something that doesn't change rooms, something that was always there before all this adjusting started. That's what this is about. I want you to imagine 3 rooms. Room 1, an elevator. 3 people inside. The doors close. What do? You face forward. You watch the numbers. You keep your voice low if you speak at all. You don't make sustained eye contact. And you definitely don't sing. No one told you to do that. There is no elevator rule book. But your body knew within a half a second of walking in what to do. Room 2, a boardroom. You sit up straighter. You choose your words more carefully. You modulate your tone. Your energy that you brought in from the hallway gets compressed. Again, no one handed you a script. Your body just ran one. And then room 3, a bar on a Friday night with your closest friends 20 years ago. All the compression releases. You get louder. You say a thing that you would never say in room 2. You laugh differently. You hold yourself differently. You are, to all appearances, a completely different person. Same body, same nervous system, same brain, same history. 3 completely different versions of who you are. Which one is you? And here's where it gets interesting. Most people, when they sit with that question, land on something like, all of them. I'm all of those. I'm just adapting. But that's not quite right either, because adapting implies choice. Adapting implies there's someone at the wheel deciding. I'll be this version here and this version there. What I'm describing is not a choice. It's a pattern. The room doesn't just influence your behavior, it runs it. There is something inside you that has been scanning every room you walk into since you were roughly 3 years old, reading the context, identifying the unwritten rules, and then adjusting automatically, instantly, without your permission, to fit. That thing has a name. I call it the identity driver, and it's been running the show your entire life. The identity driver is not your personality. Personality feels chosen. The identity driver was installed. It was formed early in response to something that happened, something that felt threatening or defining or simply like the way things were. And from that moment, its only job, its one and only job, was to keep you safe. Safe in the room, accepted in the room, not exposed, not out of place, not in danger of losing something important. And it learned to do that by reading the rules of every room that it walked into. So here's the thing. The room isn't running you at random. The room is triggering a pattern that was built long before you ever walked into that room. The rules of the room interact with the rules inside you, and the rules inside you win every time. And I know this because I lived a version of it so specific, so clearly, that when I finally saw it, I couldn't unsee it. When I was turning 50, a friend of mine was planning a surprise birthday party for me. I found out about it. A mutual friend called me. She said, "I feel like I should tell you, but I've been asked not to." My friend had gotten my address book and was calling friends from all over, clients, contractors, people from my past, people from completely different parts of my life, bringing all of them into one room. And I panicked. Not the kind of panic where you feel nervous, but the kind of panic where your chest locks up and your brain starts running calculations at full speed. Here's what I knew about my life at that time. I had friends who knew me from the high-end design world, elegant, composed, a certain kind of polished. I had friends who knew me from low-key, relaxed, and easy world. I had contractor friends, blue collar, direct, no ceremony. I had clients who were wealthy and very formal. And I had a lot of friends who were anything but formal. These people had never been in the same room, and they knew completely different versions of me. And the thought of them all standing in the same space, comparing notes, even just accidentally, was genuinely unbearable to me. Because I knew something that they didn't. I was not the same person in any of those rooms, and I had no idea which one was real. I called the friend planning the party and told her to stop. We argued about it. She thought I was being ridiculous, and maybe I was, but the fear was real. The fear was, if all of these people are in the same room at the same time, there is no way out. No versions collapse into one, and I didn't know who would be left. What I didn't understand then, and what I've come to understand through years of this work, was that I wasn't just managing different social context. I was being managed by a driver who didn't want to be exposed. The rooms weren't just different. They were safe zones. Each one gave the driver a specific set of rules to hide in. And the thought of all those rooms collapsing into one with no rules to hide behind was terrifying. Not because I was being fake. I wasn't performing. I was genuinely present in all of those versions. But there was something underneath all of them that I hadn't looked at yet. Something that needed the rooms to stay separate so it didn't have to be seen. The rooms in your life, the rooms where you compress, where you release, the ones where you shrink a little bit before you walk in, those rooms are not the problem. The rules of those rooms are real. Some of them are very useful. Some of them are how society functions. I'm not here to tell you to start singing in elevators, but here's where it matters. There's a difference between following a rule because you chose to, and following a rule because something inside you decided before you even got there. One of those is conscious, the other is automatic. And most people, most smart, capable, accomplished people, have never stopped long enough to figure out which one they're doing. They've spent their whole lives adapting to rooms, getting good at it, efficient at it, And it's called social intelligence, emotional intelligence, reading the room. And sometimes it's the driver, formed before you are old enough to choose it, deciding who you need to be so that nothing threatens it. The question worth sitting with this week is not which version of me is real. The question is, what is doing the adjusting? Because when you start to see that, when you start to catch the driver mid-adjustment, something changes. You stop being the passenger in the rooms you walk into. You start being someone who chose to be there. That's the thing I described earlier. What people find when they do this work. Not a better version of themselves for every room. Something underneath those versions. Something that doesn't recalibrate. Something that was there before all of this started. That's what we're looking for. If something in this landed for you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Until next time.